Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are in the world. Welcome back to The Caring Economy with me, Toby Usnik. Today's guest is Dr. Greg Hess. Greg and I came to know each other because of a common love for an organization called IES, or the Institute for the International Education of Students. I am an alumnus of IES's programs both in Vienna and in Paris from my junior year in college, and have been a fan, very bullish fan on study abroad throughout my career. So it's with great honor today that we welcome you, Dr. Greg Hess, to the Caring Economy.
Thanks so much, Toby. Appreciate being here.
Thank you. So Greg has quite an awesome CV. Has his PhD from Hopkins. He was for many years at the Claremont McKenna College in California, where he was the dean of faculty and the vice president of academic affairs, before being recruited to Wabash College in Indiana, which is sort of a fun one for me because I also went to an all-male college called Hampton-Sydney College, and we'll talk a little bit about that today. He had a great run at Wabash, and then this past year joined IES as president and CEO. Greg, can you tell us a little bit about your career journey, how you, San Francisco native, made it to Chicago, to the East Coast and Chicago, and running this global organization?
Well, it probably makes a little more sense after the fact than it did during the journey. What I think about is I feel very fortunate to have worked in both kind of public policy in the private sector and in academic life in two countries, both the United States and the United Kingdom. And that's given me what I think is a very kind of, rounded life and a very kind of deep set of experiences. And a lot of it I can trace to my time studying abroad in the United Kingdom when I was a junior studying at the London School of Economics. And it had such a deep impression on me. It's really had an enormous effect on the arc of my life.
Which program were you on with LES?
Oh, yeah, the LSE. I was on the general course degree. Just this was before they spoon fed you too much information. I went to the library, found a book about the LSE, sent off a letter saying I'd like to apply for this degree. Randomly, I got some letters saying I've been accepted, and without a place to live or an idea of what courses I would take, I jumped on a plane, flew off knowing no one, and managed to have an exceptionally good year.
Yeah. So as a student at UC Davis, was study abroad a common thing? Was it uncommon? Was it your own initiative?
Well, I can think of one other friend who did study abroad. They went through kind of the standard channels the UCs does have kind of their relationship partners they work with, but I hadn't even thought about doing something like that. I just knew that there were some great economists at the London School of Economics, and they had made a great impression on me. And I thought, well, if I was going to study economics, I might as well try to study at the LSE. And there it was, and off I went. There you go.
A robust experience. And do you have, I imagine, friends to this day that you made then?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, Scott, it was the best man at our wedding. I was the best man at his wedding. We stayed close. I was one of my housemates, and there's some other good friends from that time period. And when I've been plunked randomly in London since then, I actually do know my way around better than people think. I would say probably also the longest term relationship I've been able to keep from that time period is a deep and abiding love for the Arsenal football team. So you never know where these relationships come from, but mine was just randomly looking at a metro map, seeing that Arsenal must be the team I had to support, and there I was off to Highgate.
Of course, you mean a tube map.
Highbury, excuse me.
Not the Arsenal, and not the metro, but the tube, right?
The tube, yes, right.
So, and what about the faculty and the educational experience you had while there? Was there, for example, a pivotal moment or a faculty member who influenced your sort of philosophy on economics, on business?
I was just kind of a kid in the candy store, and I just decided to take courses that I wouldn't be able to take elsewhere. So I took a course in mathematical economics, which was just beyond my reach in so many different ways, but it made me stretch and learn in so many different ways, and made me understand the discipline it would take to actually thrive as an academic economist. And then there was a course on just alternative economies, people who taught courses, everything on the Kibbutznik to cooperative programs to communism and the rest. And it gave me a profound appreciation of market economics after sitting through those courses. And I also got a better sense of what it was to live in a tutorial system, because not only did you have the large lecture halls, but you did have tutorials. And I took a random set of courses. One was in international relations, and I remember just having just this spectacular tutor who was the smartest person I'd ever met, who made me try to learn 20th century history and the evolution of international relations in Europe in a very short period of time. So I think I got some of it. I don't think I got all of it, but it pressed me pretty hard.
Yeah, the tutorial system I've always marveled at from afar, because the burden is on you really to do your homework, so to speak. When you sit down once or twice and that's it, you're graded one-on-one. That's quite intimidating for some folks. How did you balance or sort of calibrate your fun time with your academic time while studying abroad?
I just pushed really hard during during the week. I've always been an early riser, and went to the library early, and tried to get all my work done and all my reading. And then, evenings and weekends were a much more kind of carefree experience. Also, the UK, the schedule's arranged that you do have some longer breaks in between, and those were kind of meant for travel. Much like you said, the tutorial process can be very intense. When I taught at Cambridge University and was a fellow at St. John's, I was on the other side. And there you could be, you could be a little bit more of a provocateur, because there, you're talking, as with many of these universities, some of the best and the brightest, and you can push them pretty hard, and they'll prepare to the extent that they feel they need to be prepared. So I try to make sure that they were very prepared for class for the tutorial. Excuse me.
Like when you came back, you probably had, as I did, I think as study abroad alumni do, a sort of I won't say a challenge, but it was a re-entry issue, right? Like you're forever changed after studying abroad. And I believe for the better, because you're never fully reconciled in one place, because you've known and been with the other, you've lived in another place.
Yeah.
And you'll sometimes long for that, just as you'll sometimes long for quote unquote home. Did you, in fact, have that same kind of challenge, or not?
Yeah. It is one of the unstated elements of study abroad, which is that the reentry is harder than the entry. And my advisor at the LSE gave me two great pieces of wisdom. One was that be prepared when you return; it'll be a lot harder. And the second one was April showers brings May showers. That was his weather forecast for me. But it is pretty tough. A lot of your friends are doing some of the same things, and you've kind of moved on in different directions in your life. So it's a little hard senior year to pivot and try to, create a whole new set of friends. But that's just the way life is sometimes,
Yeah.
and you do have to be prepared for it. And you have to just kind of build, just build a nice blend of people to hang with, and eventually you can do that.
Yeah, I would say you definitely move on, and I would also say you move upward. And by that,
Yeah,
I'm here on the caring economy. We talk
yeah,
about the role of business in society, and great brands, great leaders, I think, are nimble by nature. They embrace
yeah,
change. They go there in a way that's almost natural. And I think that study abroad gives the same kind of nimbleness, because you've
yeah,
now moved outside your comfort zone. You've moved on, in a sense, past your
yeah,
peers back home. So study abroad, I think, for career-oriented people is really almost
yeah,
a requirement, in my view. What do you
yeah.
think?
Yeah, and I think it's definitely a nimbleness with definitely a big pinch of confidence. You have had to deal with difficult situations with people who don't speak your language in a regulatory framework that you don't understand, and you have to get from X to Y in a situation, and it does demonstrate to you that you can find a way to communicate and can find a way to get things done. And I think that it is a real it is almost a necessary component to kind of a vibrant life, particularly as people think about rising in a business or kind of nonprofit environment.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, today on the Caring Economy, we have Dr. Greg Hess, who is the president and CEO of IES, the global leader, in my mind, of study abroad programs
Mhm.
for undergraduates in the United States, from the United States. Greg, in your inaugural
Yeah,
address to IES, I'm paraphrasing, but you emphasize the importance of combating COVID-19, the pandemic, um, institutional racism, the rise in nativism through the medium of studying abroad. We talked a little bit about that. Can you say a little bit more about your inspiration for that?
Well, there are some big public challenges, and one of the great things about study abroad is it makes you think, not just about yourself, but how you fit into a wider context. And some of the things I described are some of the greatest challenges that young people today, these Gen Z kids, these are the types of challenges, these public challenges that these private public challenges that these students are going to face, and we have to prepare them to be able to handle them. And that's everything from this reemerging awareness and heightened awareness that as a society we have not moved far enough past our racist history to make the kind of inclusive country that we would all be proud of. And obviously with public health issues, once again, that's a juxtaposition between the individual and the public and all the rights and responsibilities that connect the two. We want to expose our students to those tough issues and make them be prepared be prepared and fortified to make the world a better place by having a great set of language and a great set of actions that support that language as they go out into the world.
So let's stick with that a little bit in terms of social justice,
Yeah.
diversity, inclusion. Some would say, although it wasn't my observation and my experience, some would say that study abroad just screams white privilege.
Right.
How are you at IES addressing that concern or that question?
Well, as a study abroad provider, well before I arrived, Mary Dwyer, who was a terrific CEO at IS for many years, really focused on this as an area where we needed to make progress, both as an organization but also as an overall field. And we started creating programs and creating outreach programs to HBCUs and Hispanic serving institutions to make sure that students, regardless of background and to some extent, regardless of financial circumstances, would have the ability to engage in a life-changing set of experiences. So we've raised money. We've poured a lot of money into both recruiting students, making sure that they have the tools to survive once they get there in terms of navigating a new culture. And we've been doing a lot of fundraising for scholarship support. We have an update. We have a day of giving coming up. It's on May 12th, and one of those, and the singular focus of that day is to create a set of additional scholarship support in addition to our very strong scholarship profile. Those additional dollars are going to be to help support students with great needs, students to help, to some extent, to help the diversity of the overall student body. We're finding that diverse students are actually attending some of our, they're attending some of the presentations where they learn about study abroad, but they probably see study abroad as still a bridge too far. So we need to make sure they understand that there are resources there to help them fulfill their dreams.
Mhm. And you and I know this. I don't know that many of our
Yeah,
listeners know this, but a fantastic example of an IES alumna
yeah,
is our poet laureate from the inauguration, Amanda Gorman, right?
yeah.
Uh, IES Madrid, I believe.
That's right. She came to IS Madrid, and during that time, she wrote a children's book, which I think is coming out pretty soon. I know that. Actually, I was just on Twitter today. I think it was Twitter today, and I saw that her poem, inaugural poem, is now being published separately as a book, as a commemorative edition. And there's actually a wonderful ad that she did for us before she hit the heights. That
So,
talks about how the wonderful treatment she received at IS Abroad. Talks about having, I won't give it away, but she had an appendicitis and was held back for a little while before she could travel, and how much outreach there was by the faculty to make sure that she had a soft landing when she got there and that she had a wonderful experience. And she's a testimony to the great kinds of work that IES Abroad does on a regular basis.
Absolutely. And to be clear for our listeners, if they wanted to support uh, this kind of experience for
Yeah.
those who might not have the opportunity, you don't have to be an alumnus or an alumna of
Right.
IES,
Mhm.
right? If you believe
That's right.
in study abroad as an experience that can make society better, then on that day of giving, you might want to consider supporting an
That's
organization
right.
like IES.
Yes, absolutely. On May 12th, we'll have a big push to once again recognize the fact that there are more students with needs, and their needs are more. And yet we know that the qualitative benefits and quantitative benefits of study abroad are greater than ever. So we need to connect those two. What that takes is just enough dollars to get them there to make sure they have a good, safe experience. And the rest is just the magic that IES provides.
And one can find you either on Twitter. What's your handle, Greg?
Oh, I'm Prez Hess, Prezhess. There you
Okay,
go.
or at the IES website. Um,
Absolutely.
so another question for you, my friend, is
Mhm.
one of my uh, one of the observations I made of IES that made it so appealing to me, having gone to a small liberal arts college like Hampton Sydney College,
Yeah.
um, is that IES is made up of a consortium of
Yeah.
similarly oriented schools. I mean, you have some
Right.
big players there, but you have a lot of really fine, smaller liberal arts colleges that
Yeah.
I think you give scale to those who would not otherwise have scale for really quality study abroad students. Is that a fair assessment? And can you talk a little bit about the power of consortia?
Yeah, no, it is very unique in higher education that there's an academic consortium at IES that's made up of the top private universities, the top public flagships, the top private liberal arts institutions, a whole range of just exceptional institutions. And not only do they get together to discuss the curriculum, they actually approve the curriculum. They review the syllabi. They approve the faculty who teach in the program. So this is a real, deep dive and a deep quality control on the by faculty governance to make sure the types of courses these students, the types of student experiences in the classroom that these students are getting are going to be exceptionally, high quality. The consortium does bring with it, though, because we've got these great institutions, we bring these great students into the classroom, and it's just a great melting pot. You could be there with some students from a large state university. You could be there with some students from very small colleges who maybe only send a handful of students to study abroad, a semester. And it's also part of the kind of great cultural awakening that students have when they go study abroad. They get to learn about their fellow students from the U.S. as well as in this new culture that they're jumping into.
Yes, I'm smiling because I can remember having a couple of students in our Vienna program from Walla Walla, Washington, and then you Yale and Dartmouth and Hampton Sydney and Trinity, Claremont McKenna.
Yeah.
Um, Approximately how many schools are in the consortium?
Oh my gosh, I'd have to look. I'm guessing it's probably about 60. I'm doing that kind of visually. I'm sure later somebody will text me I'm wrong, but I think it's about 60. Might be a little bit more. And then they have, there's an academic council that's there, and there's somebody who's the chair of the academic council who, helps oversee kind of the academic process, but also sits on the board of trustees, the board of directors who helps oversee the entire organization. So there's a strong academic sense to what we do at IS Abroad. And also to be clear, there are actually usually two presidents from a consortium institutions who also sit on our board because they want to make sure that the imprimatur of their institution is being placed on the right on the right kinds of activities, and I think IS satisfies that with flying colors.
Absolutely. So again, ladies and gentlemen, today we have with us Dr. Greg Hess, who is the president and CEO of IES International Institute for International Education of Students. Greg, I want to ask you a little bit about purpose. You are clearly a purpose-driven person. You've got
Yeah,
something that you had a calling. You work with faculty and administrators who share that purpose. By mission, higher education is a not-for-profit, more
yeah,
purpose organization. Um, what do you say to young people who might be thinking about study abroad or thinking about their careers and purpose?
Well, I was, talking with our team in Japan, a group of people working in Japan to help recruit students from Japan into programs around the world. And, I think what I told them is that, we're in the life-changing business. Study abroad changes lives, and change lives change the world. And who wouldn't want to be part of a process like that? We know it's an intense experience. We know it's a short experience, and the pressure is on us to make sure it's right, because we want to make sure these students have these really really fundamentally transformative educational and social experiences.
Mhm.
And to be able to dedicate your life to something like that is a true pleasure and joy. I felt the same way, by the way, when I was a college president. And higher ed, there's always something going on, just like in study abroad, there's something going on. But I'd always tell my wife Laura, when my head hits the pillow, someone's being educated, someone's life is being enriched. In the end, we are doing our job, notwithstanding all the other zaniness that happens in this world.
Here, here. Do you find that your students, your alumni, are seen as more desirable by executives in recruitment? I know as someone who's been for decades hiring and retaining and developing staff, it pops out when I look at CVs and I see study abroad experience. I don't give them a pass, but it draws me into a conversation with them, and usually it's reaffirmed that that is a great quality to have.
Well, if you just look at the data, we find that students who study abroad have higher GPAs. They have increased GPAs. Even when they come back, they have a greater sense of purpose. They graduate faster than their classmates. They get jobs at higher rates than their classmates. And if you look down the road 5, 10 years, they're making more money than their classmates. But when you think about that first interview, actually, and I can think about my own experience, and I mean, this is the 80s, so and I suppose this is in the wake me up before you go period. Not to date myself too much, but
It
the fact of the matter is, it's just part of the great narrative. And so much of what you want to do in an interview is to demonstrate some competence, but also find an engaging set of just an engaging way to get into those deeper conversations about the elements of the position.
Mhm.
And studying abroad is definitely one of those things that pops out on a resume. People know that you have a certain form of independence, that you have a certain form of self-reliance, and you have a certain form of resiliency that other students don't have. Because when you study abroad, there's some really high moments, but every once in a while, you have to dig very deep when you've got the wrong currency at the wrong time, and you need to you need to get somewhere fast.
I second that. I think you
Uh-huh.
have a worldview that truly is a worldview after study abroad.
Yeah,
Um, one last question for you,
sure.
Greg. It's about the business of study abroad,
Yes.
the business of higher education. In a COVID era, it seems to me when people are not moving, you must have been really hard hit, and yet
Yeah,
IES is still there. What
yeah,
what has been the impact of IES, excuse me, of COVID-19 on study abroad, and then more specifically on IES?
yeah. Well, study abroad has been heavily thwarted. There are a few programs open up around the world at other organizations, but by and large, it's been pretty limited at IES in terms of physically studying abroad. Uh, we have worked with some colleges and universities to work with what they call stranded students. That means students who are not U.S. citizens, but who are students at U.S. institutions, but who can't get in for one reason or another. And so we've actually been educating some of those students at our centers, and that's a way to once again help with our consortial partners overall. We've also found that virtual is something that is a component of not just the present, but also potentially the future for even study abroad. We are doing kind of cultural exchanges. We're doing study tours with students on a virtual basis, running internships virtually. Our internship program, which connects students to great opportunities with mid-sized small businesses around the world. A lot of those are now being done virtually, and it's in more kind of project-based work, but still is very popular, as are some of the kind of the course curricula that we're doing virtually overall. I think the big takeaway is that I call it an and world, not an or world. There aren't things you get to give up anymore. There are just more things you get to do in order to kind of maintain your place in your business. And what I think we'll be finding is that there will continue to be a virtual presence for all study abroad programs going forward, not only to serve your current set of students, but also to find ways to democratize study abroad and intercultural linkages, particularly for students who, because of their family situations or whatever situations they're in, will never have the chance to actually extricate themselves from where they are for 3 months, 6 months to study abroad. So we think there'll be more ways that we can become matchmakers and combine, a literature class at a college in Pennsylvania with, a group of students in Spain who are reading the same text, and then join them together with faculty who get to discuss the text together with them. So I think there'll be some fascinating new virtual opportunities that emerge from this very difficult period
I agree.
for study abroad.
Some silver linings.
Yeah.
On the vocational aspect of it, you're right. I was fortunate enough to have an internship when I was in Vienna at the International Atomic Energy Agency.
Yeah.
Awesome. Truly, that campus for the UN in Vienna this was in the 80s, is quite inspiring. And, nuclear energy is still with us today. And then on the experiential education piece, we can't end this call without having some kind of shout out to our mutual friend, Chris Howard, who was president in Sydney when you were at Wabash, and made a real commitment to experiential education, right? And I think
Absolutely.
not only is that where more and more of the young people I recruit or I work with have been or want to go, but I also see in my own alma mater, Hampton City, and other colleges, that there's a drive for more and more experiential education offerings. And if that's what the market is demanding, study abroad definitely scratches that itch. Don't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, one of our big projects now is in sustainability. We have an alum who's from IES who's very much wanted to help support some of our work in sustainability, because once again, sustainability is one of the big topics that Generation Z is going to be facing. And so we have to equip these students to be fluent in it, to have a mindset that allows them to think through some of the intricacies of these challenges. And it's going to be across 3 different centers. It's going to be, let me see if I can remember, London, Milan, and Freiburg. And they will work with local organizations to talk about sustainability in those cities. But just to let you understand, they're going to be project-based work, and they're going to evaluate the projects and work with the projects across those 3 different centers, so that they get not only just an individual look at their city, but also comparative look across their cities. And it's a pilot that we're going to run for a couple of years to see if we can get it right. And if we can get it right, then we'll continue to expand it. But I think project-based work, letting students, not only to just get an education, but apply an education is important. And as you said before, study abroad is about the most applied education that there is.
You heard it here, folks. Again, I'm so grateful to have had today as our guest, Dr. Greg Hess, who's president and CEO of IES. If your kids are thinking about study abroad, get them out there. If you're looking to recruit talent, you want those who've had study abroad experience. And if you really want to support diversity and inclusion, consider donating to organizations like IES for affording the opportunity to study abroad to people, such as Amanda Gorman, our poet laureate. Any final thoughts from you, Greg?
No, once again, it's incredible that and I'm honored to be on the talk today. I just, when I think about all the things that are going on in this world that are so difficult, that create so many challenges, the thing that I always harken back to is that study abroad, getting more young people to study abroad is part of the ultimate long-term solution to a lot of the problems that we face in our country and around the world. So that's why I got involved in study abroad. That's why I benefited from study abroad. And I think people who, who find their way back to study abroad or get their children involved in study abroad, I think that they will find those rewards as well.
Absolutely agree. Thank you again, Dr. Greg Hess. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the Caring Economy for this week. Please tune in again.